Persuading people to take the actions we want can be hard. Our teams and clients are bombarded with thousands of messages every single day. But there is a way for you to get above the noise. Stories. This is the Stories with Traction podcast, and I'm your host, Matt Zahn. Join my guests and me as we unpack the power of storytelling. We'll talk about topics like leadership, sales, and marketing, all through the lens of strategic storytelling. Enjoy this episode. You're about to listen to a storytelling FAQ sprint episode with Michelle Griffin. For those of you who might not be familiar with Michelle, she coaches on authority-focused personal branding to help professionals step out and be seen as leaders in their space. Since this is an FAQ sprint, Michelle will be answering a question on branding, and I'll be answering a question on storytelling. Let's dive in.
So, Matt, storytelling is emotion, it's connection. And I think some of the things that I worry about, and I'm curious if you would let us know, what really are some of the most powerful emotions that we need in storytelling?
All right, so this is such a great question. And after doing this for years and years, going through tons of trial and error, a lot of mistakes that I want to save people from, there's really only 4 emotions that people should focus on when it comes to sharing business stories. So in a business capacity, the 4 emotions that happen on a daily basis is excited, angry, fearful, and surprised. Excited, angry, fearful, and surprised. So let's dive into this. If you are a leader of your organization and you are conducting regular staff meetings, you need to be mindful of these emotions. So when it comes to internal communication, you're focusing on the positive emotions right out of the gate. The positive emotions being excited and surprised. What's driving excitement right now in the organization? Are you excited about new team members? Are you excited about different market conditions falling into your lap? Are you excited about maybe a new process when it comes to your organization? The surprised is a fascinated surprise. What is something that's surprising that if you share it, your team's going to be intrigued by? Okay, so that's something really good to be mindful of right out of the gate when it comes to staff meetings. And then if you need to address something that's more concerning or negative, then you would dive into that. But typically when it comes to internal communication, we're focusing on those 2 positives, excited and surprised. When it comes to external communication, so we are selling, we're focusing on the negative emotions, fearful and angry. Now, I've had people ask me, why are we focusing on negative emotions? Well, the answer is very clear. If you are selling, the objections are always from a negative point of view. You're not getting calls from people saying you have too much character and integrity, your prices are too good, the process that you have, it's just too easy, we're pulling our business and going to your competitor. No, they call and they have something negative. They're concerned about pricing. They're concerned about looking stupid to their boss. They're concerned. All of them are based on fear and anger. So it's really important that if we get good at these 4, we will be able to connect with people on a lot more meaningful of a level. And we need to understand that. So I highly recommend people focus on having emotion as the foundation of the stories they're telling and focusing on these 4 emotions.
I love those. And that could be for life itself. But could you give us an example of the negative emotions like you did for the positive emotions? You gave me some story examples. That would really help define that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So if it's a positive emotion, we are mirroring that emotion. In this case, Michelle, you and I both really appreciate New Orleans. So if you're excited about travel, I'm excited about travel. If it's a negative emotion, we're taking someone to the other side of the mountain through a strategic story. So as an example, if someone is involved in a sales process, so they're on the phone with a prospect, and that person says, "Are you out of your mind? You're really looking to charge us that much money?" Okay, negative. What is the root of that coming out of someone's mouth? More than likely, it's fear. More
Mhm.
than likely, they're concerned about looking stupid to their boss. Maybe they were burnt by a competitor in the past, so they're putting someone in the same basket as the individual's competitor. So what they might say is, listen, I know exactly where you're coming from. It might seem that it's really pricey. In fact, 3 months ago, I was working with blank, insert company. And they said the exact same thing. Your prices are way too high compared to everyone else's. But then this person bought from us, they implemented the process that we have, and they ended up calling us a month later saying, wow, that was such an easy process to set up. You saved us headaches. Now we're realizing that we will end up saving money in the future. Thank you so much. That would be a story that you're sharing, right? So it's really good to share a very specific story that relates to the negative emotion at play. You are not flipping someone who is fearful to someone who's excited. That is not what's happening. You're actually validating the emotion they have, but you're sharing a story where they can see themselves in the story that you're sharing. Now, if you have a client that has really good name ID, then it's really important to use that as one of your hit stories. So, as an example, I was recently working with a company and they landed McDonald's as a client. They're literally saving money for McDonald's. So now, if someone says, oh my goodness, your prices, you're out of your mind, they could simply say, yeah, McDonald's thought the exact same thing. And then once we implemented these machines in McDonald's, they realized how much money they were saving. To share
Wow.
a story of saving money for McDonald's, like now it completely silences any kind of objections that might be happening. So this is what I mean by strategic storytelling and understanding the emotions at play.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Thanks for sharing that, Matt.
Absolutely. So just like emotions can be extremely impactful, I'm curious when it comes to impact from your perspective, Michelle, especially when we're talking about impact when it comes to personal branding. So how would someone measure the impact that their personal brand might be having on their business?
I'm so glad you asked because, of course, we want impact, for the feely, touchy stuff. But at the end of the day, you and I both do storytelling, personal branding for business impact. And that's so important because branding is an intangible, right? So there's a very much good way to, and I call it measure what matters, the metrics to matter. And what I work with my clients, I give them a list and we go through, depending on their goals and what they're doing in business, and how they're engaging in the channels and all that, we tie that to their goals and the channels. And so, for instance, these are a lot of different ways I'm going to list right now where people can, set the goals, the campaigns, and their outputs. So that could be social media engagement, that could be sales. That could be social listening cues that lead to a direct call or something. That could be something by tracking your sales, your marketing, your opportunities for media. I do a lot of PR work with my clients to help them be really aligned to strategic for media mentions. That's the beautiful thing about digital now, especially with digital PR. Everything can be tracked and measured that way. So, much like digital marketing, we can tie the LinkedIn post that came from that person. So, speaking gigs, media mentions, podcastings from the point of view when I work with my expert entrepreneurs and those who are trying to get the publicity, all that can be tied and tracked. So it's not just putting, content out the world with no rhyme or reason. It is definitely have your baseline. I work with my clients all the time, depending on your goals and where this quarter or this year or whatever wants to go. We're going to identify what those are, identify the channels, and then we're going to list the metrics that can be mapped along with that. And then I like to do maybe like a 90-day to a 6 month to a year review. And then overall, of course, after that, to really kind of see, and especially like in the case of LinkedIn, just an example. We'll start with the social selling. I don't put a lot of stake in that, but baselines are everything. We'll track their impressions, their engagement activity level. That's the one I really go for. And DMs. DMs are really important for business. So all those things, when I work with my clients, I have a strategic list for them for who they are. And guess what? They see the tangibility of it. They see, oh, wow, I make sense now. I got on these podcasts. This media reached out to me, and that really helps drive it in. So with anything, it's important to, as the book says, measure what matters. And I absolutely believe that personal branding is one of the best ways to grow your business, and you can definitely track it as well.
Oh, I love that. The metrics that matter, right? And
Mhm.
then having the goal and then backtracking on how to get it. So if the goal is inbound leads,
Mhm.
establishing the amount of stories and building out the intention and strategy behind that personal brand to lead to X amount of inbound leads. I think that's genius. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
You just listened to the latest FAQ Sprint episode with Michelle Griffin. If you have a question for Michelle or me, please email me at matt@mattzahn.com with the subject line FAQ episode.